Caledonian Elixir. Broadcasting from Glasgow, Scotland, welcome to the Caledonian Elixir. I'm your host, Vincent Lawler, and we are live on YouTube, X, and we also upload episodes to Rumble and Spotify if you want to catch up on any of those platforms. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. It helps us be found in that online social labyrinth that is YouTube. So, welcome back. And if you're finding us for the first time, we're a podcast that covers everything from politics to the paranormal, told with wit and true grit. And today we've got a returning guest joining us in a moment. However, the last time he was on, he was part of a debate discussion panel on the Iran war. And if you haven't seen the episode, I recommend you check it out. It's on my channel. It's an awesome episode, man. And I thought it'd be good to have him back on. I've had a couple of people ask to find his views out on a range of issues. And we've got so many conflicts and social issues that we discussed essentially on that panel that are still waging today. Such as war, social division, political ambiguity, instability, and even religion. So, to talk about all of this and more is Nicolas Gonzalez. He's the host of the American Anchor Baby, engineer of the Jesse Lee Peterson Show. So, without further ado, Nicolas. Hi, Nicolas.
Vincent, man, thank you so much for bringing me back on. Perfect intro. You got it all there. That's what I do with Jesse. Run his show as his tech. And now I'm here with you, American Anchor Baby. I do appreciate it, Vincent. Thanks for the invite.
Perfect intro. Was that my monologue you're referring to or the intro song?
The intro, I liked all that, but I meant the details of what I do. Not much I have to add, not much I have to say. Perfect intro.
Mm-hmm. And again, a belated happy birthday to you.
I appreciate that. That was yesterday. That was my birthday. The Anchor Baby, still a baby, 32 years old, but still a baby somehow.
So did you do anything special or interesting for your birthday? Or was it just another one like the last?
I did my favorite thing in the world. Nothing.
Peace.
So perfect birthday.
Yeah. Nick, I know a lot more about the Jesse Lee Peterson Show and the Hague Report, especially Jesse Lee, as I've been watching him on and off for the last 10 years. Could you break down for myself, including the audience, your background and what your show's all about?
Totally. So I too found Jesse. I too have been listening to Jesse for some time, and I ended up finding myself in Los Angeles, meeting him, coming to work with him closer, and it all ended up in a program I do 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and it really just fell in my lap. I started with him. It must have been now 2019, and part of my name, the name of the show, American Anchor Baby. To put it together, to put it simply, born in America, arguably American. It depends on who you ask. And yet an anchor baby, right, with parents that were not American citizens. I ended up in Canada. Imagine that. And I'm listening to Jesse, and something really struck me. And I found myself working with him. He gave me this show. He gave me this opportunity. Told me just put out good information. A show to put out good info. Make sure that it's true, at least. And that's what I do. I really deal with many topics, all from my perspective.
And do you take callers like Jesse and Hague do?
Yes. Yeah, it's definitely a call-in show with all sorts of interesting characters.
Do you get a lot of international callers?
I get a few. I definitely have viewers in India. Shout out to y'all. I got viewers in some of my podcast stats. They show them in India. They show them some
Yeah,
European
yeah.
countries,
It's amazing when you
Canada,
find out
Canada.
how many people watch you in these countries. Like I've got people that watch me in India and Colombia, and I wonder to myself, why would someone in Colombia be watching the Caledonian Elixir?
Have
Why would you care?
Have you gotten a chance to speak with any of them?
No.
I'd love to speak. I did have one viewer from India call me. Shout out to him. And you know what's funny about him that he thought he really saw a lot of the similar things I saw in Jesse's content and with a thick accent in India, but we thought in similar ways, and maybe that's why he's on my show. I mean, also thanks to Jesse. But.
I remember saying to Hake when he was on that I think US legacy media is like a soft-spoken horror show delivered to its audience with consumable sound bites. Alternative media, however, like the outfit you're a part of, I think is a lot more. It's a lot more entertaining, authentic, and I find that refreshing. And that's why I tune into yourself and Jesse and the Hake Report. It's again, it's more refreshing to hear your genuine own views on these subjects as opposed to something where it's scripted and you haven't got the ability to freestyle and improv while you're doing it.
Hey, I appreciate that. Yeah, I have some I watch myself, and I appreciate it for the same reason. I had no idea you'd be watching like that, man. Thanks.
Mm. Well, I want to turn this to President Trump, right? Now, at the moment, he's in China with a cadre of impressive business leaders. Now, I supported that guy when he announced he was running back in 2015, and back then he had panache, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
And the Democrat acolytes like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden just seemed so pompous and unauthentic. Now, fast forward to the re-election campaign in 2024, we had the assassination attempt on Trump's life in Butler, Pennsylvania, and we had the imagery of the blood trickling down his face and the American flag billowing in the background. And he rose up defiantly, shouting, "Fight, fight, fight." And that image, that was the most powerful image of that election. And I knew right there and then he had won it, especially when you juxtapose it with Biden demented, unable to even debate. But there's so much that Trump said during his campaign in 2024, from disclosure to new wars, that I feel he's went back on, and we see this division now in that MAGA movement. Do you think President Trump has betrayed any campaign promises, and if so, does that bother you in your support?
I don't feel that way. I would not say that about the president, Mr. Trump, whom I voted for and continue to support because I appreciate the work he has done on really everything he's doing. I mean, it's all the things that we care about in terms of him. I mean, we could go down the list, but I like everything he's done there. Can we agree on certain? Can maybe if we have a conversation, say, well, I would want him to do more. Maybe we might find that we agree on some things there, but I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way at all. Betrayal is not a word I'd use at all.
Right. Do you feel he's went back on any of his campaign promises?
I do not feel that way.
Okay. Right, I would like to play a video clip, right? And this will be an allusion to what I'm referencing, right? This clip one.
I've been warning everyone that this was coming in the last few months, and now it's here. Sebastian Gorka, Trump's new head of counterterrorism, was interviewed by the editor-in-chief of Breitbart yesterday. And when asked, well, are there just left-wing terrorist groups on your new national counterterrorism directive you put out? And he said, well, yes, because you can't really count Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes as conservatives. essentially saying they're extremist or terrorist. And then the editor goes on to say, well, they should be investigated for working for foreign governments, meaning Qatar or Iran. Something that Tucker a few months ago was told by high-level sources that he is under criminal investigation. And then Laura Loomer came out and took credit for it and said that she was the one that fingered him. Who knows if that's true? She lies incessantly and is delusional. But what I do know is that it was declassified last year by the Trump administration. Starting in 2013, Obama put me under national.
There you have Alex Jones, who was who was MAGA America First before Trump, laying out how Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes will be on a watch list by the Trump administration, created by the Trump administration. And by the way, in addition to that, I think it was around a month ago, Trump threatened to revoke the licenses of broadcasters based on how they spoke about the war. Now, this is something I would expect from Joe Biden, and the Democrats, this level of censorship, not just of Democrats, but also Republicans. So what do you feel about that?
Well, the thing was about the video you play. I mean, he was talking about these guys, Tucker and Nick. They've all had something to say about the president, and that's fine. I personally don't have a problem with that. I don't want their speech canceled or in any way. I don't feel like that at all about them, and I don't know if necessarily the president does either. I mean, for me, when I see him have a thing with those guys, as much as I may like him, even it's you got to understand something about the bets you make and the factions you're in, etc. Consider Trump. He's the president of the United States. He's not a podcaster. He's like in the mainstream. He's got to operate in his chair. And if someone threatens that, doesn't matter who it is. That's just the kind of guy he is, one. And two, it's kind of the proper posture in political conflict. That's not to say anything about them. And anyways, what you said about this thing coming, I'm not familiar with it. I'm hearing about it for the first time with you. It sounded like it's the administration and people too. So I don't know how Trump feels about it, but that's how I think he operates in terms of defending what he does. You just defend what you do, no matter who it is. I don't know if that doesn't mean to me that he wants to cancel speech, like he's this like hater of free speech and all that. But there's a lot of nasty people in the government, who see these guys and they say, well, they're extremists, and their whole thing about it is actually shutting down speech. And speech that I don't find that should be shut down.
Sorry for interrupting. You were making an allusion there to Trump being in the mainstream and others doing what they do in the media, for example, and maybe others in government too that are maybe extreme or portrayed as extreme. Now, one example of that is Marjorie Taylor Greene. She campaigned for Trump for a long time. Back we can go years. She was at his side. Every time Trump was in Georgia, he always defended how she was good for the state of Georgia, and she was always by his corner, defending him against the Democrats. As soon as she started raising attention, putting the spotlight on the Epstein files and campaigning to get the Epstein files released, he calls her a traitor. She gets death threats. What do you think? What do you feel about that? Because you're talking about people being extreme. Would you consider Marjorie Taylor extreme?
Extreme in how one turns. I do think that's extreme to flip on someone. And I know you're saying that she was like with him and all that, but that to me is just more to what I was saying initially. That's the way Trump handled Marjorie, shows that this is how he handles anyone that could be described as an adversary, so to speak. I don't know if that's how he thinks about it in his head, but they're challenging what he's doing, and he's got to defend it because he believes he's right. And think about what she even challenged on. She started tripping about Epstein, man. That's the biggest hoax ever.
Wait a minute. So first of all, you said that she turned on Trump. Can you describe how she turned on Trump and why you think it?
Well, I say that because, like you said, initially she was one of the more prominent voices, and in fact, very passionate about supporting Trump and all that. And so that's what I mean. It goes from that to he's now like protecting pedophiles and making even crazier commentary that I can't quite remember. So I don't want to put words in her mouth, but if I remember, it's like close to, alleging that the president has done nasty things. Think about what would ever justify, even if you believe, well, you know what, this guy supported, I don't agree with him anymore. What would ever justify for an individual like that to then turn around and start peddling and 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 rumor and allegation that you can't prove? It's pretty nasty. So that's what I was thinking of.
The way I see it is she didn't come out and attack Trump until after Trump attacked her and called her a traitor. From what I understand, she just campaigned to get the Epstein files disclosed and stood alongside the women who claimed they were, they made allegations that they were raped by people close to Epstein. And then Trump just went apeshit. He went berserk. He started attacking her. And he did campaign to fully disclose the Epstein files during the election. So if anyone's went back on what we said, if anyone flip-flopped, it's Trump. It's not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I just disagree, Vince, because you could say, well, Trump called her a traitor, and that was the first shot across the bow, but it really wasn't, because Trump was initially saying, okay, well, maybe you could say campaign, but it was more, I remember him saying something more like, yeah, I'll look at it. And then he had others like Pam Bondi, Kash Patel make far more extreme claims about that and about what was going to happen, calling it a list, like as if there's an actual list. Think about this for a moment, Vincent, that there's a list of people and then the crimes that they did. Oh, look, Senator, blah, 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 ordered how many children? Like, that doesn't exist. And so you could say, well, that was him. That first shot across the bow was Trump, but you could say no. I mean, this her focusing on such a hoax when it wasn't what Trump wanted is already a schism that you can say that Trump wanted to defend.
But there were crimes that were made by Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison right now. In fact, she was, sent to a lower security prison if it was a lot more comfortable for cooperating with the Trump administration. But there were crimes committed, and how do we know there were crimes committed? Because there are people serving time for that. She was Epstein's madame, mistress, who was involved in the trafficking of people, of women. We know this. And yeah, there may or may not be a list with famous celebrities, politicians, powerful entrepreneurs that were involved in, abusing people that might not exist. But what did happen and what does exist is a cadre of men and women who were involved in human trafficking, and Ghislaine Maxwell was involved, and she is serving time for that. And Donald Trump did campaign. He did say he would disclose the files, and I believe to this point there are tens of millions of files that are redacted. And when you get people like Marjorie Taylor, but when you get people as senators like Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene dislikes Trump. I just think she dislikes the way Trump is treating her. I think she feels betrayed by that. And it's not a Democrat hoax. I mean, do you really believe the Epstein files or is a Democrat hoax?
Betrayed people are not nice or good people. That's not something a good person feels as true, even if they could say that's true. All that is happening. But about the files, you said it right there, really, Vincent. You said it right there when you said we all know this. And consider what I'm talking about here. I'm not saying that there weren't crimes, but like you said, we all know this. This has been heavily litigated and investigated and all that. And what came out in the files, as far as we know, and I know that we're not privy to everything, and fine, there may be more things, but anything that's come out has just been conjecture. It's been random things. It's been people throwing in stuff to the FBI years later, and that also goes into the files. So when you say and then you bring up the victims and all this cadre and all that, like you said, we know them all. They've been taught, they've been named, they've gone on all sorts of podcasts for years and years talking about every detail of what they did. Some didn't want to be named, some haven't been doing any of that, but they've been paid by the Epstein Victim Fund and other funds. So they've been paid, they've been on podcasts, they've been talking about it. Like, this is what I'm getting at. It's been talked about. And then everybody else who's just getting into this are saying there's something else and they're hiding it. That's what I mean by hoax.
Right, there's something else. So are you alluding to the idea, the notion that this is some sort of Zionist conspiracy involving Israel? That through Ghislaine Maxwell and Epstein, you had the Robert Maxwell, the father, and that somehow they were blackmailing and controlling powerful, powerful people within the government, through this whole operation. Is that what you're making reference to?
Help me understand. I don't think I was referencing that. Can you describe what you said again?
Well, there is more to that. There is that idea that this is something that doesn't just involve human trafficking between Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, that there were other people involved. And if you look at how Ghislaine Maxwell and her family, Robert Maxwell was connected to Israel intelligence. When Robert Maxwell died, you had every head of Mossad eulogize him at your funeral. You don't get every head of Mossad eulogizing at your funeral unless you're connected to Mossad. It's like someone who's saying, "Well, I'm not in the mafia," and then you get every mafia don at your funeral. Right? Come on, what's that about? So this is her family. These are the people she's connected to, and who else is she connected to? Well, Epstein. Right. So this is what I'm
familiar now. My apologies, and I'm familiar with what the ostensible connections between Israel, Mossad, and Epstein. That's really the only thing I've heard. Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine, and whatever. I mean, I'm not really one to make a commentary on that. I'm not saying yes or no. And just to be clear, I wasn't referencing it earlier.
Right. But that's something a lot of people do. But when they talk about the broader implications that come from this Epstein mess, that it's actually to do with controlling members of the government. It's not just a human trafficking operation.
My apologies, Vincent. I'm having a technical issue, but we're totally fine. We can keep going. That's why I was looking away. I do apologize.
Right. And again, but that was just an example of what I was alluding to there. You've got other things like when Trump makes his announcement when he was running for re-election at Mar-a-Lago, saying that there'll be no more regime change operations, and then we get Iran. So, he's attempting a regime change operation in Iran, obviously. So what do you think about that? Do you not think that's him doing a 180 on the campaign promise there?
No, I don't, because he's also said about Iran early on, like every president, that they would deal with Iran and they would deal with him strongly. And when I found that out, right, way later, when I saw all the videos of every president candidate saying this, I realized I was the one that was ignorant. I was the one that didn't know how the world worked or how certain things worked. And so, that's just what I realized about it, to be quite honest with you. I mean, you saw him say this early on, has been signaling it for some. They say they saw it coming. I mean, you brought up Nick Fuentes, and I thought I heard him say he saw it coming for these very reasons. So it was me who didn't know. And it's just, I don't see it as a betrayal. So that's for that reason, I don't see it as a betrayal. And it's upon learning these things that Iran is not something that you can just so easily, for me, say that it's no issue and that Trump totally has it wrong. It's not clear to me that way.
Yeah, you stood your corner and you you argued, made a good argument for your case in the debate you were on. I would just like to
awesome, thank you for that. I appreciate being on with it. Was a
I remember you saying that it was the first debate you were ever on too. So
that's true. Yeah, I appreciate you breaking the seal there on that. Bill, can you move the kite mounts for me? I have the black screen.
There's another clip I would like to play. It's of Tucker Carlson.
Please.
You wrote speeches for him. I campaigned for him. I mean, we're implicated in this for sure.
Yes.
It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind, or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now.
Yes.
So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences. We'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. It was not intentional. That's all I'll say. But anyway, but the question does present itself immediately, like, what is this? Was this always the plan? You don't want to be a conspiracy nut, but like clearly there were signs of low character.
So that's Tucker Carlson saying he regrets misleading voters in their support for Trump. So there's obviously this division in that movement that supported the Republicans and Trump, especially online, podcasts. You get Alex Jones and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson. Where do you see the whole MAGA thing going with this division that is apparent and real?
I think in my opinion, I think maybe some good things might come because they'll still be an influence. These guys like Tucker, Nick, you said, because I like things about him. Some maybe more than others. And so you asked me, where do I see the MAGA thing going? I see it going, how it's going with Trump, how he sort of planned with the issues and all that. And with these influences having their influence where it should be. In my opinion, you asked me where it's going, right? Everybody, we don't know the future, right? And on this one, I chose to maybe be a little optimistic. And it's hard for me to respond to anything. I don't know why Tucker said that. But in terms of this division, I want to ask, if you could give it a percentage in your mind, how big do you think this right-wing rift is, this eternal MAGA rift is? Would you say like 50% of MAGA has flipped, or in your mind, how do you think it is? If I may ask.
Obviously, I'm not American, so I'm not on the ground, and I can't say for sure. But how I feel, how I think is that the Americans I know don't like the fact that Donald Trump has really done a 180 in terms of the foreign policy that he argued for, or that he campaigned on in 2024. He's bombed, I think, 9 countries from the Horn of Africa to Central Asia. You can go to Venezuela, Iran, They don't like that. They thought Trump would be this president who would bring back manufacturing to the US, basically put a stop to the mass, the huge numbers of migrants who are crossing the border. And that's what they wanted him to do, to rebuild American industry, to secure the border. And yet he seems to be more obsessed about Iran. And why? Why?
Definitely the reasons why there's some internal strife. But I definitely want to answer your question. I just wanted to know, in your mind, if you could give it a percentage, what do you think? Would you say 50% of MAGA has turned, or in your mind, how big do you think the rift is?
I think it really depends on the demographics. I think those who are older, who are diehard Republicans and who've been Republicans all their lives, I think they're behind Trump, and they're always going to be behind Trump. People around my age, your age, I think more of them are probably turning on him. So I'd probably say the vast majority are still behind Donald Trump, are still behind MAGA. But I think there's a lot of millennials and Gen Zs who voted for Trump and they've got buyer's regret.
I think you'd be largely correct. I have the same impression, and that's only after seeing like some truth, because I was just speaking with people. I get a different impression internally. I think it's like 50%. It's like a much bigger rift. And your question was, how do I see MAGA going? Like you said, there's this large contingency. I mean, it's like 80%. If you look at some of these polls, and it is mostly the old, skews older, etc. For better or for worse, however you feel about it. Whether they're just wrong and just stuck in there, whatever. That's how it is. And so how I see it going is, it's just going to march. I think it's going to march along like how Trump wants to some degree. And I think that's largely good. There's plenty bad too. I think Republicans, it's a mess. We could talk about it. But I think it's going to march largely like how it is. And then you have these influences. I don't think they're going away. They're clearly not going away, but they're not as big as maybe one might have thought. So it's not like over for Trump. There's definitely this new faction that involves Trump. I don't know, tech. He's got his Jewish friends. And it's like, it's hard to say if it's a new Republican Party, but there's this new influence. And so I think that influence, this empire or dynasty, call it a Trump dynasty, is going to continue. It's going to roll along. We're going to see the Rubio. We're going to see the Vance. We're going to see what happens with all that. And it'll be like a new, I don't know how new, it's still Republicans, but it's this like Trump dynasty world. So, and then you'll have the influences. That's how I think it's going to go.
You know, Nick, he just doesn't seem cool anymore. When I made reference in 2015, when he ran then, the guy had panache, as I said. It was funny how he was going up against other contenders for the nomination, like Jeb Bush. It humiliated them, and then he went up against Hillary Clinton with Bill by her side, and the disparity couldn't be any more revealing. And most people I knew over here in Britain wanted Trump to win back then, but he seems worn out. And what did it for me? What was the icing on the cake was, in terms of how I've kind of turned on him, you could say, is when Trump put out that social about 6 weeks ago, saying he was going to destroy an entire civilization in respect to Iran if they didn't meet that deadline. Right now, the way I see that is Iran was an ancient civilization before Rome even became the capital of an empire. And I just felt like saying, you fucking fool. You know what I mean? Here we have this guy who's threatening to wipe out an entire civilization that he probably knows nothing about. He probably knows nothing about Iran, apart from what he's been told about the IRGC and about how they've taken control of the Strait of Hormuz and how, you know, they're not allowing British and American corporations to extract the oil. I don't think he knows anything about their history. And yet he threatens to genocide an entire civilization. And then on Easter, he says, praise be to Allah. Now, as a Christian, does that not tick you off? He literally said, praise be to Allah on Easter. Why would they do that, man?
Do you believe he was praising Allah in his heart?
In his heart, I don't know if he was praising Allah.
Like why, in your mind, if you had to make a guess,
why would they say
praise be to Allah? Do you think it's more likely that he was truly praising Allah or something else?
I think you could interpret it as he's trolling Christians and trolling Muslims on the same day, because it's the holy state on in Christianity, Easter, the day Christ resurrected, and he's saying, praise be to Allah. Isn't that an insult to Christians?
No. And if you're insulted, you should apologize to the president, because that's insane. Yeah, you got offended over that? Like think about it for a moment. Number one,
I didn't really get offended. I just thought,
not you. No, that's fine. No, but just to those offended, consider this for a moment. You have to start with praise be to Allah, and you have to first make up something in your mind and say what he meant by that, other than what he wrote, for you to be mad about that, to say that he was trying to troll Christians. Consider what he wrote. He was actually showing love to those Iranians. He was saying, look, I'm talking to you Iranians. You guys love Allah, right? Well, it's time to fight for your civilization. It's time to do something about this, because it's not going to go well for you. Praise be to Allah. That's how I took it. And here's another thing. Wars still go on. I know holidays are happening. The Christians want to hold hands and they do their holiday, but wars are still happening. And so the president, while people are doing their holiday and trying to, I don't know, have fun or something, there's still a war happening. And so he's not having a holiday like everybody else. And that's why he's saying those things. That's why he's talking tough, because the talking tough doesn't end because of a holiday. It's like it's war. It's
so
war.
Did you interpret that as a call to genocide when he threatened to destroy an entire civilization if he didn't meet the deadline?
No, that's not how I took it at all. And the proof was when he didn't do it. And I remember before he did it, everyone was like, oh my gosh, he's really going to kill somebody. Is this insane? That's not very Christian. And I'm like, just wait. When it doesn't happen, this is the war stuff. This is the negotiation. This is what you do. And far be it from Like the one time you want to talk tough, which is like war, and you're the commander in chief of the American military, you do it, and then they say, "No, Mr. President, don't say that. It's Easter." But who's he saying it to? To the Iranians who say that IRGC, not every Iranian, fine, who says death to America. I know that maybe you should know about civilizations, be educated, but for some people, that's all you need to know. They're saying death to America. And that's not to say the president might know more than you think, but that's how I feel about it. I mean, it's war. So no, I wasn't offended.
True, it is war. Another, sorry, continue.
Please, Bobby, my point. There's just one last thing I want to add to this. Is just that it's war, and another thing is about the panache and the cool thing, because you said it twice, and it's interesting. If you consider for a moment, in my opinion, I mean, Trump is largely the same guy. He's largely the same guy. He may have done things you don't like, but he's still like the same guy. Maybe he's a little older. I don't know. Maybe you could say energy, whatever. But he's like the same guy, kind of like the proof is in all the people frustrated. Oh, I'm so sick of the same thing. So what changed? Is it your opinion of him, or is it Trump that changed?
Both. My support for someone isn't unconditional. I could be in a relationship with someone, and again, it's conditional. If they treat me like shit, I'm not going to stay with them. Just like my support for a politician, if they say they're going to do A, B, and C, and they don't do A, B, and C, and instead they start doing the opposite, and it is literally the opposite. So when they say, I won't do these regime change operations, and then they do it, they're not doing what they said they would do. They're doing the opposite. And so I think to myself, right, that's just, you're breaking your promises, and then you're making ridiculous statements. I mean, you're a statesman. You're the president of the most powerful state on the planet, and you're making comments like, if you don't do what I tell them to do by this deadline, I'm going to destroy their entire civilization. Open up the fucking straight. I mean, he actually swore in that tweet. He seems like a fool. A fool. He's supposed to be a statesman, Nick. That to me, he doesn't seem like the composed, cool guy with panache I thought he was. And don't get me wrong, again, there's a lot that Trump has done that I like, that I approve of. And if he wasn't doing this stuff, and acting this way, I would still be like, right, I like this guy, I would support this guy. But again, you're the American, and you're in the thick of it. And so by how you're describing your thoughts, I'm taking it that you still support him.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And yes, I do. Please. I wanted to comment on something, but by all means, go ahead.
No, continue. So explain
I do support it. I do support it, and I want to comment on that. It's just the panache thing was interesting, because really where I'm coming from is the betrayal, the criticisms can even be there. It's just that, let's say you had a comedian that you thought was really funny, and then they acted in a way you didn't like, and you're like, I don't like him anymore. But wouldn't that person still be funny? To go off and say he's not funny anymore, it's because that's more your judgment. That's more like you just saying you don't like him anymore.
Oh, he was funny. He was funny back in the day. You know, the thing with Rosie O'Donnell. Do you remember the Rosie O'Donnell thing? And
yeah. Yeah, I remember. It's like legendary moments for sure.
And he doesn't do that now. Now he's just threatening to wipe out civilizations. It's not as funny, man. You know, he's saying, "I'm going to wipe out."
I don't think he was trying to be funny there, though. And that wasn't him trying to be funny.
Maybe.
Funny.
Yeah. Well, do you know what would be funny if I said something like that? Because I can't wipe out an entire civilization. But when you've got the president who's in charge of the command codes, and he could do something like that, and then he says it just gives me cause for concern. But do you know what? Like, to transition us away from Trump, because
before we do, real quick,
go ahead.
I remembered what I wanted to say real quick. I apologize, but he's yelling and saying the F word and all that. He's a statesman. You don't talk like that. I just want to throw this out there. If you should research some of the great statesmen of history that they talk about, whether it's Winston Churchill to the founding fathers. You'd be shocked if that was your standard. Don't swear. You'd be shocked at the behavior of some of the greatest men in history. Just saying.
No, you're right. I mean, the shit Winston Churchill did, like the bombing of Dresden, killing 1 million Germans.
Or even just what they say and how they act. That would be unstatesmanlike.
No, you're right. Winston Churchill is one of the most famous, but also infamous, famous European leaders of all times. And there is that juxtaposition between how people see him in Britain as this hero, this war leader, yet the fact that he was an alcoholic, chain smoking, racist and
Legend.
stuff. Right, so
Sorry, I
to
had to cut in there.
right, so to transition it actually to the war, because you were on the show and we
Sure.
had that debate. But as I said, like I think you were on 6 weeks ago, 7 weeks ago, and it was 2 weeks into the war. Now, I remember Trump or the Trump administration alluding to how they felt it'd be over in a couple of weeks, and then it was a month, and then it was 6 weeks, and now I think we're 9 or 10 weeks into it, and we have tens of billions spent, hundreds of American officers injured, 13 officers dead, 6 American bases in the Gulf damaged and destroyed, and Iran still stands. Their government is still in power. They haven't surrendered. They've still got their enriched uranium, and they've still got control of the Strait of Hormuz. Do you consider this a failure on the part of the United States to defeat Iran?
I can't say it's a failure or a success, and I don't think it can be said yet. And that's how that's really the long and short of it. But it just can't be said yet. I don't. All the things you said sound bad. I'll say that like this sounds bad, right? I'm just this guy here. I'm just a little anchor baby. I have the same information you have. I'm like, that looks bad, right? But there's this big picture here, and I may not see it. We may not see it, and there's bets being made. And all I can do as a little anchor baby is see how it turns out. And it might, here's the thing. Yeah, there's a lot of, it feels negative. It could turn out terribly. The Strait of Hormuz, oh my God, Iran is not going anywhere. What's going on? But it could also turn out very well. The idea is U.S. hegemony and maintaining that. Could you imagine in America dealing with their debt, dealing with keeping the oil, keeping the energy? It could very well be that in a number of years, Americans will look back and say, wow, this turned out very well. I mean, I know it's a lot of maybes, ifs, but that's just how it is.
I didn't ask
you say it's a failure or success yet.
I didn't ask you this question during the debate, and I should have. Why do you think Trump proceeded with the operation?
That is, I do have my little opinion on that, but you got to understand it's not like I think I'm very like informed, and this comes from like a place of deep knowing. It's hard to say why. Initially it seems like, it seemed like there was no issue, especially if you were uninformed like me. There was no issue. There was no issue before. Why is there? But now you realize, no, the issue's been there for 30 years. So I mean, what was I saying there? I mean, yeah, the issue's been there. And what was your question again? Sorry.
Well, why do you think Trump proceeded with the operation?
Yeah. I think I know.
The field has been an issue for a long time.
Right. I can't say I know, but in my opinion, he just thought he could. He just just believed he could deal with it. The Iran issue, the 30-year issue, the 30-year quagmire of Iran. I just believe he thought he could. I really can't say beyond that. Why?
My thing is, like, why would you want to do it? Because Iran's a mess. If you can go back to time when the British in Operation Ajax, the MI6 and the CIA overthrew the president Mossadegh and put the Shah in, and the Shah's police, they were brutal. And the people in Iran eventually rose up against the Shah, and you had the Iranian Revolution of 1979. And we know where that went. And ever since 1979, the US and Iran have been enemies pretty much. We had Iran-Contra, where there was a level of, cooperation, under the table. But we've been enemies. I just don't understand why you'd want to get involved in that mess. It's got a bad history.
You know what? It's one of those things that's for that reason, the things you said, that I leave it open. And I think, well, maybe the US at some point had some part to play in creating this mess. But here's the thing, the mess is there. And here we are today. and Trump is dealing with things today, and that's because the kind of guy he is. I can't really say much more than that. I really don't know, but I think that's why it is. I think it's just for the things you said make me think. I mean, we got ourselves into this way. There's a part to play. The things you said make me sometimes think, like maybe Iran, maybe that world, I mean, they want to be Muslim and do. Maybe they should be, and let him leave him alone and. Right? Because the idea is, right, the Shah came in, westernizing the whole thing. That's why you get the pictures of the Iranian woman without any hijabs. But then the idea is that the rest of the Arab world didn't like that. They're like, no, we're Muslim. Like, we're just not going to do all that. So anyways, but to answer you, I mean, I just think that Trump is just dealing with it anyways.
Yeah, as a complicated and difficult region of the world. You know, every time we tend to get involved, whether it's Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, it just doesn't seem to make things better. And
This
I
is the
just
last one.
Sorry?
Don't worry, this is the last one. I swear, this is the last one. The last regime change. Trust me.
You know, well, General Wesley Clark did say over 20 years ago that they would do 7 countries, and Iran was the last and last. So you're right. This is the last one. This is the last.
Right, I heard about this. Someone was teaching me about this, and yeah, that there's like this talked about plan. But I mean, I don't know much. I don't have much thoughts about it about the plan. I mean, the idea is security, right? Security. People are mad about it because it's supposed to be only for Israel. Like this plan only helps Israel, but I'm not entirely convinced.
Is there a difference in your in that company you're a part of with Jesse Lee and Hake and yourself? Do you have any? Do you differ in opinion and view on this, or
with each other?
Yeah.
Concerning Trump, Iran, and all that.
Well, just the Iran thing in particular. Are you of the same mindset that you feel that you know, you just got to give it time and, you know, see what will happen?
Oh, about waiting and seeing on this. I think so. I think we agree on this, and it's just it's the only position. I mean, you can bring up the things that you don't like and say, well, I heard you were going to do a regime change and all this, and those are all things that you may that you can say you don't like, but there is the big picture, and it's this war with Iran, and how will it turn out? Will it be positive or negative for America? And it's not over.
Okay, I want to bring us back to your show. There's a religious theme to the GLP show and the Hake Report. And I'd like to know, is faith or spiritual revelation a significant part of your life and your show too?
Significant sounds like it's like what I talk about mainly, but if there's anything like that, it's by accident, you know. I mean, but it is, yeah, it's by accident. So I can't say it's like I'm revealing the truth to you all 2 hours of every episode.
Yeah.
But it is significant in that when I'm reading the news, presenting the news, and what news I'm collecting, what interests me it's not like left and right, Republican, Democrat. You know, I talk a lot about the right wing itself and what problems we can't see about ourselves. I'm fascinated about the blind spot we have, the individual often has about themselves. And I talk about that often on my show, the blind spots I've discovered in myself. And so yeah, that's the things that motivate me and what news I gather and all that.
What do you mean by the blind spot?
Well, like I said, I mean, one topic that comes up a lot is the right wing themselves. I mean, it's sure we could talk Democrats all day, but the Republicans have problems. They have anger. They want to fight the Democrats and you know, there's all sorts of social issues. It's like trans, race, immigration. But consider for a moment that a lot of these things, there's no reconciliation, there's no middle ground. Only people that are sick want to fight. Only people that have an internal malady want to fight, like in that way. So, you know, that's what I mean by like blind spots that the right wing would have about themselves. They really act like the left a lot, spiritually speaking.
Yeah, that is a spiritual. Yeah, it's a spiritual statement. What you said there, or it comes from your spirit. Because if you've got a sense of peace and balance in you, then you're not going to be prone to fighting with other people for different views. I enjoy the silent prayer that Jesse Lee Peterson
Oh,
recommends.
right. You rock the silent prayer?
Oh yeah, well, the thing is, I find that a form of meditation. It's more of a form of meditation for me, and I've read like the Gnostic Gospels and Miguel de Malonos and the Yoga of Jesus by Paramahansa Yogananda. So I'm into a lot of this kind of stuff, right? And I like the silent prayer because it reminds me a lot of the more Gnostic or esoteric uh, interpretations of prayer where you go within
How do they
yourself.
say it? I've never heard of such an interpretation. I'm curious if you could succinctly say.
Well, it's going within yourself to find pristine consciousness, to find your peace, and that the kingdom of heaven does reside within you. That it's not something to be found on the text or some
Fascinating.
parchment or by a guru. That this is something that comes from enlightenment and realizing that you are part of divinity. That you can experience divinity from going inside and finding peace and to, rise above those thoughts and not identify with those thoughts. I think they make reference to thoughts as the cheetah, so they call it, and a good image of it is like there are ripples on a wave, or like like a pond when you throw a stone in and you see the ripples. Those are like the thoughts, and we need that tranquility, that stillness to feel that serenity.
Fascinating.
I'm going off on a tangent, man. I'm sorry.
There's this silver thread of truth in like the entire world.
Yeah.
It could be, I think, expressed in all sorts of different people that you would never expect.
So do you practice that yourself?
The silent prayer? Yes.
Yeah. And do you
Yeah, man. It's just like it's just part of life now.
Mhm. And
Like
so
wake up and then
you felt that it's balanced your life out and helped you deal with confrontation and division?
I think so. It's strange because you just do it. You just do it, and I think what happens is the benefit comes later, and you don't even notice it when life happens, and you're just dealing with it better. Definitely not from an emotional state. Should be a sort of heuristic
Mhm.
if you're dealing with life correctly, in my opinion.
'Cause you
And
you
so,
guys
yeah,
got
I found it way later, way later. I'm like praying and praying. I'm like, I'm just watching. It makes sense. In the moment, it brings a tranquility. But the deepness, it's like later. Life happens later, and then I realize I handled that with stillness,
Mm.
and I think it's because I was practicing it.
'Cause you guys get a lot of callers, that really challenge you,
Yeah,
especially
yeah, because as still as I'm being, you can still pull stuff out of me. Like, for example, like I like Trump. I like him. Call it a bias. And I think people who pretend they don't have a bias, it's like that's way worse. It's like, you know, uh, and so I can have a caller, and it's not that I don't like. You can't criticize him, but like if I don't have the right thing to say, maybe you might see me a little flustered or whatever. It's like call
Mhm.
that I think that's the work that we're trying to do that Jesse's been talking about. Watching that in yourself. Why does that affect you? It's a spiritual battle.
Yeah, I have noticed, a lot on the Jesse Lee Peterson show, but he does receive a lot of calls that really challenge his philosophy, if you could describe it as that. Um, and they sometimes try and get under your skin and try and get that emotion out, and it's interesting how you can uh, listen to all this stuff and not get a bit pissed off with it. I
Yeah.
don't think I could take that number of calls without getting on the edge of my seat sometimes and going, "Oh, you guys, stop calling me." Um,
That is
right,
funny, man.
right. I want to before we wrap this thing up. I want to put you in the hot seat, Nick.
All
Right,
right.
right.
Bring it on.
So, right, Nick, what is a woman?
A woman is a woman is a woman who is a female who doesn't hate her place in the hierarchy in God's order. Man over woman, woman over children.
What is fear?
Fear fear is fear is that Fear is a thought.
Russia or Ukraine?
You said what?
Russia or Ukraine?
Well, I've never. This is a harder seat than I thought. Ukraine. I'm going establishment. I'm going full establishment. Deep. Like I may have problems with the deep state, but it's our deep state. You know what I mean? Like I may have problems with the deep state, but that's our deep state. So Russia, go away.
Oh, right. Did we land on the moon?
Yes.
Is the Earth flat?
No. Definitely not.
Did you have fun?
Big time. Hey.
Awesome. Okay, Nick, if there's anything you would like to tell the audience about, promote before you go.
I'm just live Monday to Friday. This is my second time with Vincent, and I had a great time both times. I'm live Monday to Friday, American Anchor Baby on YouTube, Rumble. You can find us on our own platform, punchy.tv, and that's Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific time.
And Nick, thanks for coming back on, man. I enjoyed the conversation.
Lovely, Vincent. I hope to be back. Appreciate it.
Take it easy. Good night. And that was Nicolas Gonzalez from the American Anchor Baby. I recommend you check his channel out on YouTube. And the next episode we have will be with Stanislav Krapinovich. He is an expert in the oil and gas industry, and he is a former US Army officer, and he'll be coming down to break down the conflict in Russia and Ukraine and the Iran war. So don't forget, people, we have a lot of chaos and madness in the world, and we have a lot of people willingly trying to spread that chaos. Don't you be one of them. So everybody be cool. You be cool. Good night.
Gold pressed platinum, slip strips and bars. If you ever find some, you can lose it in quarks. Get a Ractogino, spin the double wheel. Order a black hole, just depends how you feel. Yeah, it just depends how you feel. Gold pressed platinum, you know it's a gas. Mom vomits it up into a tiny little glass. Liquid platinum, more you amass. Better than bronze, cobalt, silver, nickel or brass. Silver, nickel or brass. Living in a high society, living on station. Part of the alliance, the United Federation. Picking up the pieces from the Cardi occupation. You could be a Klingon with a genetic mutation, a symbiont Tandorian, a tortured Irish curly-haired Caucasian. Waiting on the holosuite, playing a game of space dogs. Really matters not. Everyone is welcome in quarks. Yes, everyone is welcome in quarks. Everyone is welcome in quarks. Gold pressed platinum, you can buy your own moon. Drinks with little hats in them. Come back soon. Spin your heart on dough. It comes from dying stars. You just have to imagine these slips, strips, bricks, and bars. Slips, strips, bricks, and bars. Gold pressed platinum, greed, greed, greed. better than religion, family, fat Ferengi cackling. He knows it's so fine. Someone get him a napkin for his 2 grubs and Tollaberry wine. 2 grubs and Tollaberry wine. Rule number 47, expand or die.